Alright guys, such comic again. I hope you're doing well and enjoying your day so far. Major reaction yesterday to the likely scenario that this upcoming weekend of the Halo World Championship will be FormaL's last ever competitive tournament. FormaL goes into detail that this is likely to be his last one, but who knows, at some point in the near future, he may get tired of being on the watch party and what that means for the other individuals on that watch party and look to come back to competing in the Call of Duty League. What next, especially with reaction from Octane among others as to what he might be up to this weekend. Hit the like button if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new as always, I would greatly appreciate it. Lots to get into. Gonna start here with talk about the third game mode, because Hitch was asking the league, what's the third mode, right? As it stands, we don't know, and usually we don't know for a little bit of time anyway. I mean, I remember back in the Vanguard season, they didn't even add control until like January or, I don't know, mid-December or something, right? Like, it took them a while to even add a third game mode. They were just playing Hardpoint and Search at the start of the game. And even, I think, last year, there was quite a bit of talk that, well, control's not really looking so good. Maybe we just play 3 Hardpoints, maybe we play 3 Search and Destroys or something like that. That's not going to happen. There will be a third mode. I think it's better for the league that there is a third mode, but it's got to be a good third mode. And Uplink isn't coming back that we thought it might, so what are the options? We play Control again? Okay, fine. I mean, Control's, it's not totally horrific, but it's not great fun, let's be honest, really. And I think we can do better than Control. Could we bring back Capture the Flag, maybe? Could we play Headquarters? Could we play Sabotage or whatever? Okay, maybe. But the new game modes that they've added is Overload, right? This mode, you pick up the jammer or whatever the thing is you're trying to carry, you put it into one of the 2 portals, and then you score a point. I think the game mode generally works quite well. It does. The ping that you get might need to be looked at. I also think there's an argument that the player who's carrying the objective, like an uplink ball, shouldn't be able to shoot. That's also a possibility. I actually like the 2 portals. If there's just 1 portal, it leads to the defensive team camping too hard. So I think 2 portals is good, but you might need a way, certainly with the pros, especially if there's going to be a respawn delay, to balance it a little bit more in the favor of the defenders, because I think it's going to be pretty easy to score with the pro teams the way that it's currently set up. That's a question. What the CDL do, because, you know, Traixx will be talking. I think that Traixx probably want this to happen. I wouldn't be surprised if they are in favor of Overload coming in. What the pros think, that's a good question. Whether it matters, another good question. Maybe the CDL just decide what they're going to do anyway. But as it stands, I mean, look, the COD League are not going to say yet. They've not said that Hardpoint and Search and Destroy are confirmed, but we know that that's going to be the case. Now, there was some talk about this tweet. Dashy said, control what you can control. TJ Halley quote. Krim goes, he needs to control his diet. But some people looked at this and thought, oh, it's like a hint that control is going to be the third mode. I don't really think that it is at all. But I guess you can make of that what you will. But let's talk about some of this FormaL stuff, right? Because it was a big talking point of the last few days, and certainly yesterday when OpTic came out with this sit-down. Hex sat down with FormaL and had a quick chat with him, really. And, like, pretty expected. We talked about it for the last few days. We've known now for a good couple of months, really, that the Halo Championship Series is ending in the very near future. It will come back at some point when they bring out a new Halo. But you know how it goes in Halo, right? Infinite dropped. It did pretty well early on. I know that some of you guys probably still play and have a good time on that game. But as a competitive scene with not as much support and just the fact that it's been around a few years, it's going to inevitably die down. It usually does, to such a point that Halo Championship Series, the official league, is going to call it a day and pause operations for now. There's still going to be other third-party tournaments and stuff, but it's not going to be what it currently is. And as a result, loads of the Halo pros in their prime are looking to come to COD. Legend, we think, is signing with the Vancouver Surge. Bound and Renegade, there was talk from Hex the other day that, well, what about if you bring in Illy to the OpTic Nation Challengers hypothetical team, bring in Bound and Renegade, round out the roster somehow. There's some of the other, I think the Cloud9 Halo guys looking to make the move as well, among others. I think Frosty said that he's definitely going to look to stay in Halo, but look, who knows what next for some of these guys. Now, we also are aware that competing in COD is a bit of a different ballpark. FormaL has said this before, that in Halo, the teams pretty much get on. They play 1 scrim set and then they call it a day. Whereas in COD, it is a bit more intense in terms of practice. They're playing more COD. They're grinding harder, generally speaking, and that's just the culture of those respective scenes. So FormaL has kind of said that coming back to COD, certainly at this stage in his career, would be like a serious commitment, and he's not necessarily keen to do it unless the circumstances aligned. Look, if the Falcons came along and gave him just an insane bag to play, then sure, it would be worthy of consideration. If OpTic could do the same thing, then maybe, but of course, there's no spots on OpTic right now, as we very well know. But this weekend, I mean, starting today, is the Halo World Championship. OpTic will hope to make it at least to the Sunday, and then they will try and win again. They've lost in the last couple of years in the Grand Finals. They won back in 2022. But the big question has been, this is probably the last Halo World Championship for many of those Halo guys, and likely for FormaL, it could well be his last ever event. So instead of, let's say, preempting all of these questions during the tournament about FormaL, OpTic just decided to sit down with FormaL and have a chat about what he was thinking going into the tournament, because we know what the next chapter is going to be for Legends. We think we probably know what Bound and Renegade on that same roster are going to be looking to do as well. But the question has been for FormaL, is he going to stay around? Is he going to come back to COD? Like, what's he looking to do? And yeah, FormaL sits down with Hex and they talk a fair bit. And as FormaL says, I'll share a couple of minutes of this, but I've come to terms that this is pretty much my last event. Do I want to play COD? Not really, because the options for FormaL when he went to Halo are kind of like, all right, do I sit down on the watch party with Scump, or do I, go to Halo and compete? And that's what he wanted to do at the time. And today, maybe he will choose the latter of those two options, or the former of those two options.
So you've seen a lot of your old teammates, right? The Dynasty, Shotzzy, Scrappy, FormaL, Crim6. They've all, teammates and rivals, right? They've all stepped away. They've all had their moments. What is your sentiments on the dreaded question?
What, if I'm retiring?
Yeah.
Truthfully, I've kind of come to terms with this is probably my last event. Whether that means like I'm gonna flip a switch and not be competitive anymore, it's probably not true. Do I want to compete in COD? Not really. I don't want to go start at 31 and tarnish any legacy that I had there. And it's just a pool that I'm okay with not stepping in.
Yeah.
Cool with my jacuzzi. It's just a big like what if, and who knows? Because I could wake up tomorrow. I'm the type of person that could wake up tomorrow and be like, yo, I kind of want to fucking do this. I'm bored as shit now. 3 months from now, I'm in the off season. I'm like, dude, I don't know what the fuck I'm doing. Like, I'm on Seth's watch party. I'm having fun. I get back to my house. I'm falling asleep. And I'm like, dude, I kind of want to fucking play something, bro. I'm like sick of watching. Like that could happen to me overnight, any night. Truthfully, it could happen any night. So I'm not gonna say this is my last event, but I'm kind of taking the mindset that if it is, then
you have to win.
Then it's all in, and if it is, then then I want to leave the building knowing I couldn't have done anything more.
Before you answer that, I need you to know that no matter what your decision is, I'm along for the ride. If you want to go
100%.
play something else, I will fucking build a team for you. Whatever it is that you want to do, I'm here to support, because I want to be a part, as I have been, of your legacy. And if getting a trifecta in a different game is in the cards, like I want to be there for every step of the fucking way.
Yeah, it's been over a decade with OpTic and the Green Wall. Like the support obviously it's unmatched, right? Like let's just be honest.
W Hex. Oh, some fake ass. I just said the same thing about 5 minutes ago. There wasn't a single W, Scott.
I don't know. I don't have like a word for it. He's just like eternalized as a competitor. So seeing him do that's kind of insane. But I don't know, man. If it's his last event and they win that shit, that's the most tippable fucking send off of all time, dude. That'd be absolutely fucking absurd. I'm sure the Green Wall ate that up. Yeah, if he does the watch party, it'd be sick too. It would be cool to have him back in Call of Duty if that is what he wants to do, obviously. Mal, thank you for the 23.
So FormaL on the watch party sounds like a good time for sure, for at least a certain amount of time. But again, it's happened with some of the other guys. Look, let's not forget that Scump has been relatively close to making a comeback over the last couple of seasons. It's not happened, it's probably never going to happen, but we've heard plenty of talk that with some of the OpTic drama behind the scenes, there have been times where Scump was asked and was even willing at times to maybe come back for a short stint when the team needed him. Methods has made it very clear that you know, if he could still compete again, he misses it, right? I think that's the point with Zinni, is that he definitely misses being up there on the stage and competing. Octane, I definitely think, is satisfied with his decision to step away, but I'm sure on some level, right, like, he sees the guys up there winning championships. You're always going to miss it to a certain degree. And I think it's going to be difficult for FormaL to get away from that as well, certainly with the level of competitor that he is, and because he's been competing for so long, right? When he was fed up of playing cards in the Cold War season, everything was online, it wasn't the same, you know, he wasn't performing that well. The situation with Dashy, it was, you know, there was a bit of a clash there from an AR perspective. FormaL decided to retire, and it looked like that was it. And then a couple of months later, he was like, well, kind of like in Halo, don't really want to sit on the sidelines and do nothing, so let's play that. And turned out he could still be right at the top of his game playing Halo. We'll see what happens, of course, this weekend. But the point is, it's going to be difficult to get FormaL away from wanting to compete in something. And I think that's what he implies, that it's possible that he steps away for a while and then he really does want to come back. As, you know, Heck says, look, we'll see how it goes, and if there's a possibility in something, then maybe he could consider it. I don't think FormaL's going to step down and play Challengers COD, right? I don't think that would make an awful lot of sense unless he's just desperate to compete in something. And if so, then, you know, maybe there'll be something else that comes on the horizon that FormaL wants to compete in as well. But he's just been competing at everything for so long that it's going to, I'm sure, be difficult for him to fully step away from it. But the key point is that this weekend could be the last time to ever see FormaL in competitive action. That's effectively what was said. They did change the title of the video, but the video that OpTic put out initially said basically FormaL on retirement. They then kind of changed it to say what's he going to do after Halo. But, you know, it does seem that he will, I mean, he's not going to compete in Halo anymore. So we can take that as you will. But Octane, as we saw, right, he talked about it and said this would be pretty crazy. As a storyline, I think it's good that OpTic have set the storyline up in this way, because I think everyone's kind of expected this is probably going to be FormaL's last event, but until it's said officially, it doesn't, you know, it's a bit of a question mark. But OpTic have set it up to be like, look, this is probably FormaL's last hurrah competing. So let's see, like, does he win? Does he not? Because they've come second the last couple of years in a row. It's been tragic, and their team has been pretty good this year, but probably not as good as many were expecting, given the fact that FormaL was actually going to retire last year if he didn't get this precise roster of Bound, Renegade, and Legends. That's the roster that he has. We'll see if they can come out on top. But intrigued to your thoughts in the comments. Going into that Cold War season, pretty interesting. Only 31% of these players who we believe are going to be on the rosters for Black Ops 7, but we'll see what gets confirmed over the coming days. Last year, 36 of these 48 were starting in the league. So, I mean, you can see that every year it goes down, obviously. Going back to Modern Warfare 19, only 13 of these players were competing then. And to be fair, in MW19, there were far more players, right? Because it was 5v5 in that game. But in Cold War, it was 15 of these 48 were competing at the start of Cold War. Of course, FormaL was one of those competing in Cold War and then called it a day at the end of the game. Pretty much you have to go back to Vanguard and you find, I mean, Modern Warfare 2 even, really. So only a couple of years ago, half of these players weren't in the league at that time. So there has been a serious amount of turnover. It's expected. It's one of the reasons that why we say for some of the pro players, like, look, you've got to capitalize on it when you've got the opportunity, right? When you are a pro, stream, make content, do what you can to build a bit of a presence, because unless you're a real top player, you're probably out of the league in a couple of years. So very much enjoyed your thoughts in the comments. Hit the like button if you enjoyed. Subscribe if you're new. Take care, and I'll see you next time.